Excellent.
So I started the recording, Bob.
Okay, thank you very much.
Everybody's up.
Super. I'll just wait for a few moments for the folks to come in, and 12:30 is a bit awkward. I apologize for that. Just with the different time zones and people logging in, it's had to compress things.
That's A-okay.
First, I want to thank you ever so much for taking the time to present. It's wonderful. We've really had a good lineup of speakers today. So last 2 days, well, actually, for the whole conference, we've got some great folks coming in. The support of everybody is much appreciated. Okay, great. We'll just waiting room is filling up. Everybody's in.
We're all good.
Okay, good. Thank you very much. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 4th Digital Transformation in Government Conference afternoon session. Now we have the Chief Data Officer of the Bank of Canada who's going to be presenting on the leadership roles. And she's going to be looking at the role of Canada's central bank, mandate, strategic priorities, how to harness the power of data and journey to date, enabling and empowering data-driven organization and data science use case with respect to currency, and of course, the very important lessons learned. Just a bit about our speaker. Julie Champagne was appointed Managing Director of Corporate Services and Data, effective 5th of March, 2018. In this capacity, she's responsible for the bank's information, data, and analytics services, facilities, and corporate security services, including the bank's continuity of operations. Quite a portfolio. Mrs. Champagne has an extensive background in operational and financial auditing, management consulting, strategic business planning, and enterprise risk management. She joined the bank in 2009 as a Deputy Managing Director of Internal Audit and served as the Chief Internal Auditor from 2012. She's a native of Sudbury, Ontario. She holds a Bachelor of Commerce honors from Laurentian. She's also a fellow of the Chartered Professional Accountants Association and holds certified internal auditor designations. So without further ado, Julie, over to you, and thank you ever so much for taking the time to speak to us.
Thank you, Robert. It's really a pleasure to be here with ISACA, with you, and with everybody on the phone. And I was looking through some of the names, and I see a few people from the bank and some people that I know as well from even my previous life as Chief Internal Auditor. So, merci tout le monde de s'avoir joint à moi. Ça me fait vraiment, vraiment plaisir d'être ici avec vous aujourd'hui pour parler de notre cheminement ici à la banque. So my presentation will be in primarily in English, but at any point, if you have questions in whatever language, that's fine with me as well. Je pense now, is my screen up, Robert? Because I'm not sure, I can't see it necessarily. Yes, it is. It is perfect. All right, so I'll just move on to a bit of, and Robert said that well. Let me just make sure. Now it won't move. Why will my, oh, there we go. OK. Donc, puis ma présentation est là, donc je m'excuse, je vais regarder un petit peu pour dire, OK, so a bit, I'm going to talk today a little bit about the bank because it's always important whenever you're talking about data and the transformation journey. It really is about your environment, right? And so I'll talk a bit about what our environment is, and that helps in the why of our journey. And our call to action, why data is so critical and important to the bank, and what's our journey been around that. And what's been our approach in transforming. And I can certainly tell you it's not a one and done. This is really a journey. And I'll share an example of how we've put it in practice and just some lessons learned around that and around our journey. So hopefully it'll be useful and interesting to you, because whether you're CDO, CDAO, whatever your title is, wherever you are in the organization, certainly this is a critical function to enable your organizations. And it is the CDO to enabling to to share and provide that vision, that alignment, that enablement, and really provide the velocity and the skills that's needed for the organization. So it's certainly a hot area, and I'm really pleased to be part of that journey here at the bank. And so, whoops. All right. So at the bank, so just a little bit about the bank, just to situate. Some of you might already know, some of you may not know it. Um, but we are here to promote the economic and financial welfare of Canada. What does that mean? Well, got a couple of groups. You probably know that we set the interest rates. Really sorry, I have nothing to do with that. But we do enable our organization both on monetary policy and our financial system, ensuring the financial stability of the financial system. We provide them with a lot of data to be able to, for them to inform their decision. It is a data rich, these are data rich, very sophisticated, mature users who use data because it has to be based on facts, etc., to ensure the confidence of the decision, confidence of Canadians around that. So very important, and they tend to be, use the latest technologies and are really always looking for advancements. We also have our currency group. So we're policy group, we're currency, so more manufacturing, and really, again, so we're, how do we print, produce, distribute? So really understanding the how the banknotes life cycle is run through is very important, both from ensuring the continued confidence in our banknotes, but also ensuring that the usage, the effective usage of it, because it impacts, impacts Canadians, our tax dollars, but also the environment. We also have our funds management, which is, again, we are the banker for Canada, and we also ensure again, from a financial well-being, the, that liquidity, et cetera, of the financial system. So we've got transactions that are high in value, and over the pandemic, really, we've had to put in some new types of measures that have really increased both the volumes, but really the complexity as well. So again, transaction data. And then finally, we've got our newest member of the 5 functions, which is the retail payments supervision. So we're just kicking that off, building in the systems, and there is going to be another area of really multiple data points, lower values, higher volume. And finally, underpinning it all, it's not there, but really is our corporate administration. And so again, enabling the bank, and those would be things like you would see in any organization, HR, finance, ITS, security, etc. So that's a little bit about us. And why is it so important to harness the power of data? Really, it is around all of these items: improve risk management, process efficiencies, time savings, and in these times of constraints, in these times of scrutiny, it is really important that we leverage all of our data to make effective decisions, to be as efficient as possible, and to be able to showcase our due diligence. And that is what we're trying to do for the organization. It is really about better decision making. And if I look at our strategic plan, underpinning our strategic plan is digital and our ability to be able to use data. And so it is critical for the organization. And I'm sure for many of your organizations, it's the same. You're probably finding yourselves in that same kind of situation and opportunity, which is fantastic. And this doesn't happen overnight. Really, this is a journey. It's a long journey, and we could, put it out there for many years to go, because we are continuously evolving and changing, as you know. And so being adaptable is very, very key to be able to effectively go through that journey. We have to understand the business, be a trusted partner and advisor, which means have to be savvy, innovator, change agent, really understand the opportunities out there and connect externally to be able to connect internally. And at the same time, we're also a bit of a risk manager as well. So it's important to understand the impacts and the concerns and the potential risks of of the organization when using data. And that risk appetite is a really important conversation, whether that's for ensuring how we're using it, the right controls, etc., but the right risk appetite, because you can't, it's not zero based risk. It really, we also are there to enable innovation. In that as well, we end up being an educator and a strategist as well, which is what we're seeing even with this newest Chat GPT generative AI. We end up being at the forefront of that from an educator, strategist, it's enabler perspective. So our journey, coming back to this, and as you can see, our governor here is a quote from our governor in our data strategy, and it really is, or in our strategic plan, not our data strategy, our strategic plan, that really showcases the criticality of data to really enable our work, enable our mandate, enable our strategy to support analysis and decision making. We built on a strong foundation, and we're continuing to enhance our practices, and you can see that across from we started in 2010 here in this picture. You can go back even more. But we started in this picture of when there was really, we put together a data group and supporting our analytic environment to now where we're really bank wide. So we've seen our group we've seen it advance in the types of data that we're using, in the clientele that we're serving, and in the criticality of the data. We did launch our initial data strategy in 2019, and shortly thereafter there was a digital strategy that was launched at the bank. We also in 2020 put forward, or we had a data science team built up because we wanted to get more and more into AI, ML, and it was important to have that center of expertise. We had data scientists across the organization, but to really get that, to accelerate our activities, to get that velocity, it was important to bring a team of experts together. And I know we've got one, Stenua is on here, but we've got a tremendous team who's enabling the organization and empowering the organization in advancing. It was also important to really look at and enable fluency across the organization. This can't stay in just a small team. It has to be across the organization to get that velocity. We need to enable, educate, build up capabilities. So we've been doing that through, it started off with an incubated team, now into our information data and analytics services team, and they had started already around fluency. Tools, etc., really important as well, and ITS is a key partner in ensuring that we've got the right tools, platforms, etc., to enable. And we're going to be getting into renewing our EDAS because things are moving so quickly that we're seeing the need to continue to advance our thinking and our strategies around where we're going next. So that's just a little bit about our journey. And in that journey, we brought some teams together, and this is now our centralized information data and analytics function here at the bank. It used to be, we used to have knowledge and information in another place, more focused on records, etc. We had our data and statistics office that was more focused on our analytic environment, the core mandate, and we had incubated a small team to really look more at the operations and our corporate admin because they were looking to get to look at people analytics, etc. So we brought all this team together because we thought it was important to look at data from end to end, from either its inception, its acquisition, right to how we're doing data management, ensuring the quality, to the analytics and insights that we were gaining from it to its retention, etc. So we brought this whole team together because we thought because it was really important that we had an integrated perspective and that we were flexible to whomever our client was. So that is now our team and quite an array of competencies and skills. And here we go. So our approach is really to enable, to empower, and to advance. Enable to ensure that people have the information that they need when they need it, that they're empowered to make the decisions and use the data in the way they need it. So very client focused, business focused, and advancing innovation. So that again is why there's these specialized teams as well to help to really build forward the kinds of innovations that we're looking for across the bank. And the vision here is a really important one as well, because it can be all kinds of words. And it was important that we look at what are the key attributes that we're trying to achieve. And I'm sure these are similar to many of yours. For us, it was important that it be secure and accessible and also really trusted, because part of our vision is to be trusted by Canadians. And so that trusted needed to be there. And understand also what's most important to the organization of how we are going to use it. So responsible, sustainable. So responsible because of our reputation and our current context. So having that responsible, not just the innovation, but the responsibility with it and understanding the impact, really important. Sustainable, not just ones and dones, but we're looking at this more holistic and meaningful because again, we were advancing across the organization and making sure and everybody wants to use data and we've got to make sure it's the most meaningful thing. So meaningful was important to us to drive the kinds of drive the decision making insights and efficiencies. And this is how we look at it from a foundational. Do we have the right foundations in place? Do we have the right enablement and also innovation? All of these three are really important to us to really enable that data-driven organization. And also we built out our data and information management lifecycle. Again, looking at it from a holistic perspective, this is our own coming from a whole host of different frameworks that are out there. And we built it purposely for us because we wanted that kind of holistic looking at the life cycle, but also the key components in it and making sure that we're advancing in every way, both through how we're engaging with the business, how we're governed, and the kinds of policy and policy instruments that we have. And so that's how we're enabling. And we've also really framed out, what are our services? So what are we? What are we doing? What are we enabling? And what's important in that data-driven culture? So some of it is our services, I would say as well, on the technology, tools, and infrastructure. We do support as well the organization in this realm. We do partner as well, very much so with our ITS group, which is critical. And so that strategic alignment is imperative. So, and we look at it from a services perspective to make sure that we are maturing all of these elements and that we've got an eye on them. So whether it be our governance and strategy, which we know underpins, ensuring that we've got some focus on our people capabilities, both internally to our group and continuing to expand and evolve, and also from a bank-wide perspective, that dissemination, how information is being shared internally, but also very much externally. And we work closely with OSFI, with CDIC, with our FIs, with others. And so how are we disseminating? And more that information is going on our website for others to use as well. We partner a lot with academics, with the universities, with other central banks. So how are we enabling that? And we have partnerships even on data gaps, et cetera. We've got two of our colleagues at the IMF right now talking about data gaps as an example. Data and information management, really that is key to us as well, especially as we're getting into more of the operations and enabling some of the activities that they want to do. You've got to build it in right at the beginning and put in place the mechanisms that enable that. Otherwise, garbage in, garbage out. So I know I'm speaking to the converted. You already know that. And then the other thing, obviously, is the analytics and innovation and the insights has been growing quite a bit as well. So ensuring that we've got the data sets to enable that. And this is where a lot of the creativity side by side with the client, with our, with our organization, understanding the business, really understanding the possibilities. So, and understanding how that data can be used and working through those proof of concepts or different things. And a lot of this is iterative as well, building on, building on. And as much as possible, analytics, we are trying to build those in and build those capabilities into the business. We do have a self-serve. This is something, the more that this can be self-serve, the better. We're there to help, to enable. And our vision is that it's all like, it's kind of like Excel. It's going to be just in our business in the long term. So I think, yeah, which brings me to a bit of a use case. I thought it'd be interesting, and I can't see any hands, so I'm just going to continue until somebody tells me, has has a question, or until somebody tells me a hand is up.
Just,
So
sorry, Judy,
yeah,
Bob Wiseman, sorry to bother you. It's just sorry to interrupt. We're getting questions in the Q&A session, and I'll put those to you when we get to the end of the presentation.
perfect.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Even better. Okay. Banknote wear analysis. So we've got a number of different use cases and proof of concepts and really interesting cases that I could have used here. But I thought it would be interesting because this is a tangible one that we all can relate to, and that is banknotes. And a few years ago, we went from a cotton-based substrate to a polymer, so the plastic notes that we have. And that was for good reason. It was because we wanted to ensure that the life of this note was longer. From a big reason was the environment perspective, because the longer the life of these banknotes, the less the wear and tear, the less distribution, and so the less greenhouse gases that are used from a distribution perspective. And then you don't, also from a production perspective as well, and there's savings in that regard. And so this is near and dear, and I don't know if you know, but every dollar has its own serial code. And so we in the past have not necessarily been able to track that in the ways that we wanted to, because we didn't necessarily have the tools or the capabilities to do that. We knew that one day we would. We do have it from, when there's counterfeits, et cetera, or if there's issues, but it's not necessarily something that we track all the time. And we really wanted to get to understand the kinds of patterns that we were seeing in the usage of these banknotes because of the importance of the life cycle. And so we put a small team together, the squad, with our currency, with IT, with ourselves, to bring together kind of a one team approach to be able to look at what we can do to understand the patterns here of usage. And I say it was really important that the business, or that we understood the business and the kind of what would create that right data set to be able to see and get the right insights out of that. Should we be using all kinds of, like, from the $5 bill to the $100 bill? Do we want to have look at it from across Canada or just in certain areas? What kind of, so we, what batch? So is it an older batch, a newer batch? So what batches did we want to use? And so those were questions that we had to work with the business to really understand and appreciate. What is it we're trying to get to? What are we trying to create? And then what kinds of data sets do we have that will enable this kind of exploration? And then what kind of tools were most appropriate for this type of use case that we were looking at? And so it was also a great use case for us to use the data lake. So build out that data lake, put it in that data lake, and really start using it and understand how to use this tool. So in this case, so here we were using, it's high volume, high velocity data. We've got big machines that process it. And really it was and as we process it, also there's some sensors on these big machines that will indicate the fitness of the banknote. So it's very sensitive sensors. And it was important for us as well to get insights into what is the right sensor, what is the right setting for those sensors to be able to have the right output. So that's some of the things that we were looking at with this particular use case. And you'll see here that what was leveraged was really anomaly detection, and looking at a very high volume set of data. And I know you can't see all of the information here, but it was really to be able to visually see, and you couldn't do this manually in any way, to look and to see what are some of those triggers? What are some of the different, what's our understanding of the different, say, banknotes? So $5 notes are used very differently than a than a $100 note. There's a different psychology to it. It's used in different ways, possibly by different people. So there were real insights that we were able to gain around the fitness level, the possible usage, and insights into saying, okay, what else do we want to do in looking at these different data sets and digging in even deeper into understanding how and what contributes to the fitness of our banknotes. Yeah, so that really helped to also build in what's our thresholds. So on these sensors, how do we want to use these thresholds? What are the implications? Helps to look at from a modeling perspective, the patterns of construction. Do we look at different, also on the security features? We've got a whole host of security features. How are they surviving? How are they being used? It also even helped us to understand the use of money through the pandemic, and how that was, and some of the geographic and institutional differences, and institutional where they were being used, financial institutions, et cetera, et cetera. So lots of insights that were gained through this particular use case, and very exciting here at the bank. And so, if I look at, trying to get to the next, sorry about that. Our lessons learned around how we're enabling organizations. So foundations. So foundations are important, and it's not just technology and platforms, but the data management, the quality, the people side as well, in ensuring that we are talking to the business about what is important to them when growing. So when growing process policies and patterns become policies, and patterns become increasingly important. And what that means is we can't keep doing one and done. Really have to build, because there's so many different use cases and opportunities out there. How can we use one to leverage another? How can we build on one another? So we are really trying to the best of our abilities, and that's why sustainable is important in that vision. And how can we ensure that the policies that we're setting out up front enable the kind of decision making that we want to do? So data governance is key. is really at the end of the day. And integrated planning is key as well into how we want to build innovation, enabling the organization, working with them. Again, we've got limited resources, so how do we frame out the value proposition? Empowering teams, not just data team. This is across the organization, as you know, and that's how we look at it. We really look at it as our mandate is to enable and to ensure the self-serve model is going to work for across the organization in advancing that innovation. So, maybe I'll just leave it to say, if I look at some of the key success factors of uh, any CDO office is one and foremost, really understanding that business, that relationship management, understanding the business, partnering with them. We should understand their data better than they do. So it means we've got to understand their business, almost better than they do. Um, we've got to be creative problem solvers and trusted advisors. So building in that trust and in doing that too is looking not just within our organization, but outside, like we're doing today, to really understand what others are doing as well and the innovations that are being that are had. And just before this session, I was at a session on generative AI. That's key for us to understand what's out there to ensure the innovation, but also to ensure that we're doing it in a measured and thoughtful way. So, how can we enable the organization to take the steps? And sometimes, the temptation is to jump into solutions. We want a solution right away. We want to give that dashboard. We want to do that proof of concept. Um, and a hammer, when we've got a hammer, everything can look like a nail, but you know taking taking that step back, really understanding and planning and ensuring the right data sets in the right measured way that's a value we bring as well. So that adds trust. So, and evaluating that suite of options with them, enabling them to understand and to build on, and to that it becomes together we're doing that. Some frequent check-ins to the clients as well, I think, is really key and has been key in this last business case. So not just taking it, going out, B-ring, and then at the end saying, "Here you go." So that's a key success factor as well. And having built those relationships with the business, it's not a one and done. It's a journey, as you've seen. And then, another real piece I think is important for any CDO office is we have to become we're change agents, we're transformers. And to do that and to inspire, we also need to be storytellers. So that communication. So it's great that we're doing these things. How do we promote? How do we say our story so that others can get excited and we can build on that momentum? And so I think more and more we are storytellers as well. And so that really is that's my overview, and that's my sharing with you for today. And I'll take questions, and in the meantime, oops, I'll also there you go. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
Well, thank you ever so much, Judy, for the presentation. It was very insightful. I think many of us have been scarred by the data wars for the last 25, 30 years. It's been, but anyways, progress is being made. And I think that you're a good example of, the Bank of Canada is a great example of where progress is being made, not just in the technical front, but also on the policy front. I've got a couple of questions for you. And
Yeah, absolutely.
essentially is, what roles and impacts do you foresee for digital ledger technology, i.e. blockchain, within the Bank of Canada's various mandates?
Yeah, that's a great question. And obviously, we are looking at that so we've got a team that's looking at digital currency
Mhm.
and looking at blockchain. And it is important that we continue to understand what is out there from a payments and currency perspective, to both from an innovation. So, how can we use it and how can we leverage it more and understand it as well from a financial stability perspective. And what does that mean? And what are the risks to the financial system? And then as well, how can we leverage it for in the future having our own digital currency, and using some of the different technologies to be able to ensure a safe currency. And so we're not there yet, obviously, but we continue to explore this very closely.
Okay, thank you. Next question. Can you say a few words about the role of enterprise architecture in supporting or accelerating your data analytics strategy?
Absolutely. So it is key, and I think when I was talking about sustainability,
Mhm.
it is really this becomes key. That whole architecture of how do we ensure that we can leverage the information and integration and making sure that we are integrating the information from different sources across the organization. We've seen some challenges really in this area of being able to have data from different domain, and we know that the benefits of really optimizing our use of data is solving for that. And so taking the time up front, and that's why, not jumping into solutions, but really looking at how we architecture it, how we, how do we want to put that together? What are the mechanisms, the controls, the features, all of those elements of security as well? How do we ensure that appropriate architecture to leverage the data, not just to input the data, but leverage it a- afterwards from an insights and analytics perspective? So very key.
Great. I think that answered the question extremely well. Now, are the use cases you highlighted available via academic journals or the bank's website?
Yeah, thank you for that. So we partner a lot with our economics group, and so we do publish. So if you look at the bank's website, we have publications there. We don't necessarily publish these types of all of our use cases. Some of those we will share in forums like we do here. We certainly promote it, but we do publish. We have a number of PhDs on our team, and we publish use cases. Absolutely.
Okay, that's great. And if you ever want
So
just
if anybody's interested, they can send me an email. Yeah.
just I'm with the open group and we just basically do it's just sort of a white paper approach, but we just put in stuff that's
Okay.
oh, so that's something else you might consider if you don't want to do a formal journal article is onerous sometimes. You just want to get it out, you want to get something out. But okay, that's great. That's answered that question.
Excellent.
We have your approach. Okay, you're using the what they really want to take a look at is a practical approach to innovation, and how you basically get the enthusiasm, motivation, entrepreneurship attitude needed for it to happen in the government context.
Yeah. That is such a great question because actually all the questions were great, I should say. Uh, it's not always easy, for sure. And culture is such an important aspect of this because we are change agents, and it's not everyone um, that wants to. Well, one, security is really important. Not everybody wants to share information, etc. And people don't necessarily want to change. So how do you drum up excitement? We've had to do it in a number of different ways. A few years ago, I think, oh my God, is it 5 years or 10 years now? It's it started a program called Pivot, and I am now trying to remember the acronym, but it is proof of concepts. It's bringing together industry with us on some proof of concepts that we could do in a quick way. So we started there. That promoted some innovation in that space. The other one we had You know, we had someone who, an advisor to the governor, who was responsible for digital, and I call him our disruptor. So he really pushed some innovation as well. And we had the art of the possible sessions across the organization, partnering with ourselves, digital technology, and people, because we had to have the skills as well. And so it really is a number of different approaches. And and then promotion. That's why I was saying storytelling is so important to drum up that real excitement. And I would say the other piece on the other side is that risk management that I said, trusted advisor, but also risk manager. Solve for some of the privacy issues in a way that people are, comfortable with, so that we can use the information. And we've seen les bâtons dans les roues, we've seen some of that where it stopped the innovation. But if we could frame it, and we've got new innovations with, now that we've got tools on anonymizing some of the data. And so now we could use some of these tools to make it exciting and accessible. So yeah, all these different aspects I think help to advance.
You really need to have a culture of innovation and an approach to risk management. I think that's what you're saying, is that, basically
Oh,
you're going to be open.
sorry, you're cutting in and out. That's probably on my side, Robert. I'm sorry.
Okay, no problems. What you're saying is you need to
Oh,
embed this culture of innovation and allow people, manage risks rather than punishing people for making mistakes. As long as they do it in an environment where it doesn't hurt anybody, go forward and create those environments where people can sort of kick the tires for new solutions.
yeah.
For that.
And
And
have your small team of change agents, right? Your small group of innovators, and really drive that.
I see that all the time in the university. They ask, well, what do you mean? Why? We want to know why not. So it's great. The tabula rasa, and I said, okay, that was a preconception I had for 100 years. Okay, the last question is going to be, how's the Bank of Canada's data strategy and infrastructure impacted the bank's ability to stress test banks subject to credit shocks? I don't know if that's within your lane or your comfort zone, but obviously
Yeah.
there is an impact. You know what I mean? Like, it's really important to do the stress testing. Go ahead.
Okay. Sorry. Can you hear me,
I can
Robert?
hear, yeah, I can hear you perfectly.
Okay. Good. I'm having trouble with my. Uh, yeah, we have a lot of innovation. So we do. So we have information that we gather alongside OSFI, so that we get from the FIs, and we have different information sources as well, whether that be from TransUnion or from different data sets that we put together to stress test, say, for example, so to look for risks in the financial system and to understand, say, for example, household debt, uh, or other potential risks in, financial risks that could impact the Canadian economy. And so we do work very closely with our financial stability function on that. We've worked as well side by side with, say, OSFI and banks on even, greening. So what is the potential impact of physical and transition risk in portfolios for banks? So we do a number of different innovations and scenarios in that regard. Absolutely.
And
And our economists are always looking for new data. I can tell you over the pandemic, some of the traditional sources of information sometimes were, were not as useful. So they were, really searching for what kinds of additional information can we scrape off the internet or can we get elsewhere. There's more cross-border shopping or online shopping now. So some of our traditional ways of gathering information are no longer useful. So these are things we are always having to look ahead in what information we can use and how we use it in a responsible way.
great. I don't see any other questions. You mind if I just ask you two of my own there? I'm just curious.
Absolutely.
Are you basically buying data at all from data service providers? Data as a service?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
we have some really important information that we have that either we pay for, that we get from third-party suppliers, or through some of our partners, like StatsCan.
Mhm.
Very important information that we rely on to be able to make monetary policy decisions. And so that is third-party risk, I would say, is becoming more and more important. You know, we're not data resilience is becoming more important. If somebody gets hit by a ransomware and that data feed's not coming in, where else can we get that information? And so data resilience is becoming key, uh, more and more key. So third-party data for sure.
Okay, great. And the second question I had for you is an audit type question, so it should warm your heart there. Continuous audit. Do you have that? And not just internal audit. I'm talking about audit of the financial health. Do you have that in place?
Yeah, and you're talking the financial health of Canada or
Well,
financial health of our organization?
of Canada and coordinating with OSFI for the banks and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So that is something that we do as part of our financial stability is look at the health of the financial system. Could be and we have our oversight team that looks at the health of our financial market infrastructure. So Payments Canada, et cetera. Do we have the right, so that's more of a risk and oversight. But certainly from the FI's perspective, yes, we work closely with OSFI. Now, OSFI is key to that as well in
Okay, sorry,
ensuring the appropriateness of, capital adequacy, liquidity, all of those things. So they are the ones. Oh,
sorry, you
sorry.
cut out. Okay,
Oh,
can I
sorry.
can I
I was
just
going to say OSFI has a key role in that financial stability, like that financial well-being of financial institutions, of individual financial institutions. That's OSFI. Us as a financial sector, including even cyber resilience, that's us.
Okay, great. Well, thank you ever so much for taking the time to talk to us. You and your teams are making a wonderful contribution to this particular conference, and it's greatly appreciated. So, Julie, merci beaucoup. Okay, thank you very much. And now we'll be getting ready for, I'll be stopping the recording,
Sorry,
but
Robert.
sorry, can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Sorry, yes.
Okay, no problems. Well, we were just thanking you profusely, and like I said, it was a great presentation. It was great, and we're getting ready for our next presentation now. And it's going to be Eric Sweden is going to be presenting the equivalent of the provincial perspective. He's going to be talking about the various states and their IMIT priorities, and he's from the National Association of State CIOs. His presentations are wonderful, and you can get so much information from them. It's really worthwhile. So please, I look forward to seeing you in the next session. So with that, thank you very much. I'm just going to stop the recording now.